Namaste, everyone, and congratulations. The simple fact that you have made it to this video already means that you've learned how to feel your spine. You've already seen substantial progress. Even if all you ever do is what you've already learned, it's going to go a long way to maintaining a state of health that you haven't had before, right? So this is a wonderful place to be. This is basically the last lesson for the bodywork section. Please don't skip the next lesson, the very last one. This is a research-based course, and having feedback comparing what happens at the beginning to the end is super important. So please do that for me. But this is your last official bodywork lesson for the alignment half of the master course. So what we're going to do today is give you a bit of a demonstration of what stage 2 on the log looks like and a bit of an overview as to what all the stages are. Let's see. As you have undoubtedly already noticed, this is for posture groups 2 through 5, and for this video there are no different versions for the other groups. These are the stages that happen once your body starts coming back into alignment, and it's not something you can just go do like fixing your furniture. At this point in the game, your body is the one that's going to decide when you are ready to graduate to the next lesson, including this one. So far on the log, you've just been focusing on your knots and spinning in circles to learn how to relax all of those knots. Well, this lesson will actually happen automatically, all by itself, once you start to regularly work out those knots. There's going to come a day when you start going through your back and there are no knots to be found. So instead of doing circles to relax your knots, what's going to happen is you're going to start doing crooked looking laps as you just search your body out to make sure there's no hidden spots, right? You'll start to notice rounds instead of locations of knots. Like, you'll go through once and it'll be more like a stretching round, and then you'll go through again and it'll be more like a moving round. So, of course, the big danger here is don't get smart, right? I mentioned this in the first log video, of course, but this is the one where it really starts to matter. Once you start doing laps and you start thinking you know what's coming, that's when trouble comes. It is really super important to maintain the artist's attitude of always doing this every time like you have never done it before, right? You want to keep the newbie attitude. Otherwise, you're going to end up coming across a day when you think you know better than your body and you don't realize you're forcing your way, and you're going to put something where it doesn't belong. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If we take a look at the board here, so the keys from stage 1, of course, we're making sure you're breathing from your belly, keeping in mind with staying the newbie, right? I hope you are still taking time at the beginning of every session to just sit and breathe before you think about doing anything, right? Just tune into your body. Staying dead, of course. We're not looking for stick person posture when we're using the log. We want to stay completely dead and relaxed, with the top half of our body especially. It's kind of difficult to do that totally with the bottom half without pulling yourself into alignment positions that don't feel good. But the top half of your body needs to stay absolutely dead. Number 3, of course, I was just mentioning again, we want to punch that sweet spot. We want to follow whatever feels good without having opinions about what we want to see happen and trying to make it happen, right? And then, of course, the 4th key was just how you handle knots. You go in circles. You don't do these wiggly laps, right? So, for a demonstration of the laps, it looks a little more like this. You still get on the log in the same way, line things up, tip back, and hang. Let's see, I feel things shifting already. There we go. Oh. And then, of course, you slowly get onto the log. So I kind of wiggle back and forth and back and forth, right? So that's kind of what I mean by crooked laps. What I'm doing, even as I'm getting onto the log, when you get to this point with stage 2, you can do a lot of exploring as you get onto the log, right? So I'm just looking to see if I can find any spots that I don't know about. I'm still going, again, keep in mind, I am still going remarkably fast. All right, I'm already at stage 3, so it's still going to go slower for you in stage 2. You just wiggle around. Oh. And as you wiggle around, things relax. Even if you don't have actual knots, there's always still places we carry tension. And those things get stretched out just as you wander around searching. First, when I get up to the top, I want to do the neck. And I'd like to show you a stage 2 trick for your neck now. Thus far, in stage 1, it is super important to get really, really good at playing dead, not using any muscles at all. And for the stage 2 neck trick, you do have to use some muscles. So that's why it doesn't show up until here. But, of course, the neck is where we carry most of our tension. And these areas here that you're working on getting with the edges of your log, these soft areas around the base of your neck, they are, in fact, quite deep. And you're never going to get them all that well if you're just laying flat on the ground. So I'm going to show you how to tip up so that you can dig into these spots right here. There's also a helpful little tidbit here. There's a lot of women running around who, after having given birth to kids, started having bladder control problems. This is an epidemic in our nation, so it's worth putting in here. And people have been given all sorts of suggestions. You're supposed to do these Kegel exercises to strengthen your pelvic floor and all this kind of stuff. Well, what we've learned now is actually that all of that was making the problem even worse. The problem is a little muscle buried in your neck up here. And when that gets tense and starts staying tense all of the time, it's going to shut down all your urinary. That's what's causing all of these women's problems, right? So this stage 2 neck trick here is not just really good for your neck. This is also a huge, big deal for women who are having any kinds of issues along that line. By learning to relax that area really, really well, you're going to experience miracles in that other area of your life. So that's something to look forward to. Junior wants some lovin's today, and I want to be extra careful around him. He wants to be with me doing these exercises. He just had a little accident last night with local wildlife, so he's limping. You gotta be careful. Okay, so if you're working on the neck, you're over here. By all means, start out with the dead version. Oh, you want to do things slowly, right? And if you don't start out with the dead version, you're undoubtedly going to use more muscles than you need to when you try to tip up. For the tip up, here we are going to use a bit of the stick person posture again, right? All you do is you keep your back perfectly straight. Oh, I gotta move a little so he's not in my way. Okay, let's try this again. There we go, right there. And you just keep your back straight and tip your bottom half up. Now I can tell that in order to do this, I am technically using muscles in my lower back right here. Mostly I'm just using these, of course, but I'm using a little bit right here too. It's all right. It's not a strain on your back. It's just that you can tell that they're in use. They're not allowed to relax. You just tip all of the weight of your body onto that spot. Oh, for a vastly deeper relaxation of your neck. You may find that your lower back starts to bother you long before your neck wants you to stop. So take little breaks, right? Kind of go back and forth until your neck is happy. Now I got to do the other side or it's going to, just tip up. Very easy. Very gentle. As you can see, I'm still quite dead. But I have to use a little muscle to keep my back straight and tip up. So that's about it. That is the idea of crooked laps. You're going up and down and wiggling around a lot more than you are going in circles. Something to keep in mind when you start doing laps also is to make sure you do some crosses of your back this way. If you are doing laps, some of that circle business gets skipped. So make sure you cross it. So one end of the log is at one hip and the opposite shoulder. And of course, do both sides, right? Again, this is really, really fast. We're blazing through here. All I'm doing is showing you the positions to play with. And again, do your wiggly laps along this crossed axis. So this is not something you can do with those short travel logs. And it's one of the most, in my experience, it's definitely been one of the most helpful positions that I have found. So as you go through stage 2, you're going to find, again, that there are stretching rounds and relaxing or moving rounds. I'm doing bad posture here to stay on the camera. Let's fix this camera. It's drifting on me. There we go. I'm going to sit up a bit more for the rest here. Okay. So, yeah, stretching rounds and shifting rounds. Stage 3 is where you see something that looks more like what I just showed you right here, where it goes super fast. In like 5 minutes, you've done everything you need to do. Stage 2 is when these laps just start happening spontaneously, because as you're going along, there's no knots to circle around. So you will definitely notice that there is some kind of pattern to the areas that move. Usually people start feeling things relaxing and moving up here first, because that's where we carry most of our tension, right? So wherever your most tense area is, that's, well, how do you say that? It's not actually your most tense area. Like if you have a lot of neck problems, for example, odds are your lower back is like concrete. So common sense, it's not going to be the concrete that moves first, right? It's going to be the stuff along the edges. But this is where everything starts at. This is where we start to carry our tension. So that tends to be the first area that moves for people, or starts to relax. And then it just keeps traveling, right? So in the beginning, lots of times people will have things starting to move up here. And then as they go along in their laps, then things will start moving from the bottom to the top instead. You'll notice that all kinds of different things affect the patterns that you see in a person. And there's going to be a lot of variation for everybody, right? Everybody's a little bit different. And everybody's patterns are going to be a little bit different. But the core patterns are fairly basic for everybody. So that's really about it. Gosh, I can't believe we're starting to wrap this up. You start doing the laps and the rounds, the neck tip up, stage 3 and stage 1, you're rolling around for an hour. When I broke my back, there'd be times I'd spend 2 hours on the floor. It was just too much to get up, and I was going to feel awful if I did get up. So where I felt better is where I stayed. Stage 2, it starts to look like a half an hour. You know, it doesn't take you forever to work on these knots. You're just starting to do laps, and eventually it's just going to go a lot faster, right? Stage 3 is basically when you're fit, right? You know, even Tarzan is going to throw himself out now and then and need a little help, right? So, you know, if something does happen, if you have a really extra tense day, you did something really stupid, you were playing puzzles all day without your healthy slouching rack, right? Well, then you go take a round or two on the log and you're good to go again. That's stage 3. Stage 4 is totally automatic. Now, I know stage 4 exists because I've experienced it at multiple points in my life. I have not maintained it yet, but I have experienced it. My chiropractors tell me, of course, that, you know, according to medicine, this is the sort of thing that is not possible, but it is. You know, there's a very big difference between what people experience and what is possible. And we have to be careful when we're looking at data for large groups of people. You have to understand that there are habits that all these people share that are underpinning the experiences they have, right? Like, I can totally believe that they've never met anybody that had this happen, but they've never had a client that would design a course like this, have they? Right? Like, they're not dealing with people who understand that it's about learning to relax your body and staying in a stress-free state, both physically and mentally. You know, that's the key to health. And everything really does fix itself then. And it is possible to attain that kind of health no matter what your circumstances are. That's even harder for many to swallow, right? So, oh, I can tell I'm already getting led into the wrap up here, and that's for the next lesson. But you get the idea. Stage 4 is log free. You know, it's just like when you're reaching for the cookie jar and everything just goes bloop, 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 without any input from you. And you don't ever have to worry about this accidentally being bad or dangerous, okay? Your body mind doesn't make the kinds of mistakes that you would, right? So that's what you've got to look forward to. The assignment for this lesson, I'd like a little bit of information. I'm going to have to wipe this off so we can write it down for you this time. I don't have both of my boards here. I've got one here and one at the apartment. So, what do we got here? Okay, question number 1. Don't forget your name and date, of course. Question number 1 is, where are your knots? Your regular knots. Ooh. Your regular knots. Oops. Ah, I always tell Iris not to do that, and here I'm using my fingers. Okay, knots. I'd like you to draw me a little picture. Right? Put a head and some arms on it. But this is a picture of your back. Just draw me a picture and show me where your knots are. In my case, my regular knots are, okay, so if this is my hip line right here, I've got one right here. The first time I broke my back, that's where I broke it. The second time I broke my back, that's where I broke it. And of course, my neck. Those are my spots. Kind of looks like the button-down man. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have different injuries, different habits, what have you, right? So draw me a little picture of where your knots are. Number 2. Do you know what caused them? You may not. You know, when I set off these 2 knots in my back, I probably have absolutely no idea what I did. It's just generalized lifestyle stuff that even now at this point in my life, I'm just no idea, right? These ones, I know what I do when I set those up. Those ones show up when I play my puzzles and I'm sitting on the city bus or something and I don't have my slouching rack. So it might be a bit of both. You know, you can, if you'd like, you can just put an arrow, if you know the cause, just put an arrow with a little description to which ones you know a cause for. That works pretty well. And number 3 is, okay, I'd like you to write this down on your sheet. Write the word, or just abbreviate the word beginning. In the beginning, like when you first started playing with your back. And now, we're going to have 2 little lists. Running into my man here. There we go. In the beginning, what order did, okay, I'll just write this down first. Hang on. Neck, upper, mid, and lower. Neck, upper, mid, and lower. Write them out again, please. I'm just cheating so you don't have to sit here and wait for me. I'd like you to put a number next to each of these words to show me the order that you notice things starting to relax in. So when you first started playing with your back, what was the first place that you started noticing things relaxing? That's probably going to be the first knot that you noticed, right? If it was here, lots of people are going to put it for the neck first. Absolutely. Just put them in order. It doesn't, it's not necessarily going to go in textbook order. For me, it tends to go from my neck to my lower. Oh, well, this is for me now. For me now, it tends to go from my neck to my lower back, and then here, and then here. That would be my order for where I'm at now. So do that for when you first started and wherever you're at now. That's it. Just take a little picture of whatever you wrote down and send it to me at ange@cleaninguplady.us. That's about it, you guys. Please, again, don't forget to look at that last video. It's going to give you a bit of an introduction to some miracles that are possible when you do more than just look at body work and you are willing to entertain the idea that you might be able to, in a pain-free way, address some of the emotional difficulties you have, and that might very well affect your overall body stress. What a thought, right? So, yes, we definitely want some more comparison information on just the body stuff, and we want to give you lots of incentive to make sure you check out the other half of the course if you haven't started already. So that's about it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Namaste.